Buenas and good morning, colleagues and those who are watching from home. We are resuming our session. Where we left off on Friday was on Bill 52-36 COR. It is relative to disclosure of ownership, financial, and conflict of interest under Guam procurement law. And when we last left off, Senator Frank Blas, you had the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think, Madam Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to be able to work with my colleague, the author of the legislation. I will then yield the rest of my time to her to be able to explain some of the things that she was going to be doing over the weekend to help, explain the bill a little better.
Thank you, Senator Blas. On my list, I had Senator Brown next. Senator Brown, did you want to be recognized on this bill? All right, so on Bill 52-36, is there any other senator who would like to be heard? Senator Duenas, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I certainly rise in support of Bill 52-36. I was trying to pull up my committee report, but maybe suffices to say if my colleagues or any of those listening today take the opportunity to go to the legislative website and read on the committee report, I thought the most compelling testimony was from John Doros Brown. We all know that he is a leading authority really on Guam when it comes to procurement. And I guess the portion that I was familiar with or that I read that kind of emboldened my position to support this bill is really that it's not really materially that much different from what is currently required in terms of expanding, or maybe that's not the right way to put it, not expanding, but not the spirit and the intent of ensuring that that the privilege of doing business with the government, that the privilege of using having taxpayer money to engage with business with the government, that full disclosure is available, and so by making sure that the members of boards and other individuals who have the power behind companies, corporations, whatever entities moving forward to do business with our government, that there's full disclosure, Madam Speaker, and we know because it's just so important. We know now, Madam Speaker, that we are embarking on, of course, the rescue package from the federal government due to COVID. We know that we're currently reviewing sole source contracts. We know that we're continuing to look at how we're going to help our people through bills and other things that we pass in this legislature that will enable, Madam Speaker, the business community on Guam to probably bid for contracts and to provide services to our government and in every way possible so that we can ensure that the people of Guam, the transparency in terms of those companies, corporations, businesses, individuals that will be doing business with the government of Guam, that will be spending taxpayer money, whether it be through federal means or through local appropriations, that disclosure is there and that we are very clear, how the business of the government is operating. So I commend the author of this bill, Madam Speaker, and certainly when it comes to voting, I will be voting in the affirmative for Bill 52-36. So just some brief comments, but I think it really is, it's a compelling testimony from John Brown, and I encourage those, once again, who may be listening to go in and see why this bill is so important and what it does to provide opportunities for our people, for the people of Guam, to know who's doing business with the government. And so with that, Sizuz Masi, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to speak in favor of this important legislation.
Jesus Masi, Senator. Is there any other senator who would like to be recognized on Bill number 52-36? If not, then the sponsor, Senator Perez, you may close on the bill.
This is Masi, Madam Speaker, and thank you to my colleague for their support for this bill. And again, I think when we're talking about transparency, it's important to build in proactive measures within our government and always look to update that, especially now during the expenditure of funds. And, I think this is one of the measures that we can do to ensure that the government's getting the most out of its contracts, and that we know who we're doing business with, especially now when there's new entities that have come into existence since the creation of the procurement law in the 1980s. I look forward to the support of my colleagues and ask for their support. Sidus Masi.
Sidus Masi. On the motion to place Bill number 52-36 COR to the third reading file, is there any objection? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Pursuant to motion made on Friday and pursuant to our standing rules, we will now resolve into the Committee of the Whole for Bills 23, 25, 40, and 57. And the Committee of the Whole will be chaired by the Committee on Appropriations. We are now resolved into Committee of the Whole.
The Committee of the Whole is called to order. I'd like to advise my colleagues that we have a panel consisting of Steve Guerrero from the Office of Finance and Budget. We have Mr. Ed Byrne from Department of Administration. We have Mr. Lester Carlson from the Bureau of Budget Management Research. We have Steve Ignacio, Chief of Police, Guam Police Department, and his ASO, Ms. Anne Marie. Before I read off the rules, I'd ask the Sergeant Arms to swear the panel in first. Thank you.
Please raise your right hand. Under penalties of perjury, you all affirm that any and all information that you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. Mr. Chair, you may proceed. You're under oath.
Thank you, Sergeant Arms. My colleagues, rules of engagement. We will have 2 rounds of questions for the panel, with each senator allotted 5 minutes for questions, not including the response. So the longer you finish your question, the less time you have to ask more. At the completion of the 2 rounds of questions, the panelists will be excused until called upon for the next bill, which we have a few bills today. Amendments to the bill will be discussed after the 2 rounds of questions. Materials for the Committee of the Whole are in the shared Google Drive folder labeled 3.22.21, Committee of the Whole. Proposed amendment must be submitted in writing to the clerk via email. 36glsession@gmail.com. Amendments not in writing will be called out of order. My colleagues, time is of the essence. If I don't see it, don't debate it, we just move on, all right? After we complete the amendments in the bill, I would ask the author of the bill to rise, or actually make the motion that it be sent to the, reported out of the Committee of the Whole. But then we'll move to the next bill. So we don't rise, come back, and go back and forth, all right? We'll continue this process until all bills are discussed. Then we will rise from the Committee of the Whole, at which time I'll report out the bills. We will begin with Bill 23-36 COR as amended by the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing, introduced by Senator Jose Piru Chalai, an act to appropriate $81,744.51 and $213,703.24 to the Guam Police Department from fiscal year 2020 lapsed funds of the Police Patrol Vehicle Revolving Fund and the Safe Schools Initiative for GPD's operational expense. I now call on the author of the bill to make his opening statement, and then we'll proceed from his right. We'll move along and ask my colleagues the questions. Senator Piru.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, panel. Thank you very much for your attendance this morning, so we can maybe we go ahead with this bill and solidify the problems that we have on the lapses for the 2020 fiscal year budget. My dear colleagues, Bill 2336 COR is simply a measure to allow the Guam Police Department to spend money that was saved through the outstanding fiscal management by the team of GPD. These monies will allow them to purchase additional vehicles, provide additional officers to patrol schools, and keep our community safe. Our public safety agencies have been neglected for far too long, and over the years, overtime costs have gone up, and morale has gone down, and the number of police officers that we have to protect our residents are falling to the level that is very dangerous at this time. Mr. Chair, let us show our community to this group of fine men and women in our community and pass this bill, 2335 COR. Mr. Chair, I am thankful for the opportunity to speak and humbly ask my colleague for their support. With that, I ask that Bill 2336 COR be moved to the voting file.
Thank you, Senator Pito. Senator, we will begin with Senator Blas. Do you have any questions to the panel? Sir.
For matters of proper protocol, I will make the motion on his behalf that the body be allowed to speak on the bill before moving it down to third reading. In order, so that I can assist my colleague, I motion that we allowed to speak on the bill before moving it down to third reading. That motion wasn't made.
Who did you want to speak on the bill?
To allow the body to speak on the bill. On his behalf.
Senator Blas, I believe that the motion that made by Senator Pito was premature, and we need to first allow my colleagues to ask questions. That's why we're in the committee of the whole.
Mr.
After
Chair, can I
that, then
restate?
Just-
Can I restate my
Please.
motion?
Please.
Mr. Chair, I move that Bill 2336 be moved to the third reading file and be allowed to speak on the bill.
Yes, Senator Tulay. That's what we're doing at the committee of the whole.
Mr. Chair, can we just get a quick recess?
You want a short recess?
Yes, just a quick recess.
All right, let's recess for a minute. The committee of the whole is back in order. Senator Pito Tulay.
Mr. Chair, I want to retract what I just mentioned. We just want to move forward and discuss the content of the bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tulay. Senator Blas, do you have any questions?
Not
Sir?
at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Taylor-Taidabe, do you have any questions, ma'am?
Not at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Ada?
I have a question for the chief. Chief?
Okay, Chief. Senator Ada has a question for you.
Yeah. Good morning, sir. You know, I'm looking at the title of the bill, and it says that you're looking at transferring the $81,744.51 from 2020 lapse of the patrol vehicle revolving fund. What is this fund basically used for?
So, Senator, the fund can be used to purchase vehicles, maintain vehicles, and support our police patrol vehicle fleet.
I see. So I know I recalled asking you in the hearing that we had the other day about how many vehicles you had online. So you weren't able to expend this fund to repair vehicles that are offline currently?
Yes, sir. So this is money that we still have in the account that we don't have the authority anymore based on prior public law.
Yeah,
It's
so-
in the last budget, yeah.
So last FY 2020, you weren't able to expend the complete 87,000 on vehicles that needed to be repaired or?
Yeah, well, whether it was going to be
Replace.
used for, it's just money that we're not able to spend anymore because the FY 20 budget has lapsed or, is over. So we just need this bill to allow us to expend the rest of the money.
Yeah. I understand it, but what I'm asking is, in 2020, you didn't have any vehicles that needed to be repaired that you would have been able to deplete this fund completely?
Yes, we always have vehicles that do need repair,
Yeah.
But
So-
again, we were working in a COVID environment, and so, we were just finally, even just now, we're finally getting a preventive maintenance contract with the vendor so that we can repair our cars.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to find out. What was the delay, or why was it that the balance of 81,000 was not fully expended? I
Yes.
understand now that because
Yes,
the-
sir. I think it's fair to say that COVID has really impacted even the maintenance and operation of our vehicle fleet.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, thank you, Chief. Mr. Chair, that's the only question I have. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Senator Brown? None. Madam Vice Speaker Antina? None? Yes, you do. Please.
Situs Masi, Mr. Chair, and Manana Situs to all the panelists here this morning. Mr. Chief, I was looking at the fiscal note on this measure, and it notes that based on the appropriations that the good author is providing for the Guam Police Department, there would probably be an additional $38,000 over. I'm just reading the report, so maybe if I can just read it for the record. The proposed legislation intends to authorize the Guam Police Department to utilize the unexpended fiscal year 2020 appropriations from its Safe School Initiative and Police Patrol Vehicle and Equipment Revolving Fund accounts and to fully expend it. The bill, if passed, would authorize the unexpended balance to be available and to fully expend it for any purpose in fiscal year 2021 in the amount of $81,744.51 in the Police Patrol Vehicle and Equipment Revolving Fund and $213,703.24 from the Safe School Initiative account. Per the GPD, it fully supports the passage of the legislation. The Bureau notes that per the fiscal year 2020 Equipment Revolving Fund to cover the carryover provision in the bill, additionally, the unobligated balance of the fiscal year 2020 Safe School Initiative appropriations is approximately $251,000, which is higher than the authorized amount of $213 contained in the bill. However, it should be noted that the bill is technically deficient as it does not identify which law it is amending. So, first of all, Mr. Director, and maybe anyone up in the panel who can help me, is it the intent to also, in case there's an amendment that is needed, to be able to utilize that extra $38,000? And is there a list or a breakdown of what the funds will be utilized for so that we can make sure that we provide it accordingly, since I know there may be an extra $38,000. Maybe before you answer that, even ask BBMR to see if this fiscal note is in order. Lester? Mr. Carson, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Senator. I believe what we're doing here is we're amending the budget law. So with respect to the citation in the fiscal note, it's making, the bill should be referencing the FY20 budget bill. And I agree that the amount available is higher than the amount that is contained in the bill. And if the legislature is willing to go the extra step and make the $38,000 available, I might suggest that the language read up to 251 or whatever that number was. And
251,000.
Yeah, up to. That way
Up to.
it's, we're clear on what it is we're doing here.
Thank you.
But the intent of getting the extra money would be addressed.
Thank you, Mr. Carson. I truly appreciate that. And Mr. Chair, I know we're not doing amendments right now, but I wanted to ensure that the Guam Police Department, that if it is in there and the intent is to be utilized for the specific purposes, then they could get up to that amount that's in there right now. So, and Chief, if you can provide the breakdown, if you don't have it now, at least so that we have a breakdown of what the utilization will be used for. You may proceed.
Yes, Vice Speaker, we'll provide that to the committee.
Okay, thank you. Cito Masi, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Vice. It would be in order if you can go ahead and get your staff to type the amendments so
Yes,
that we can
and I'll
just,
go ahead and turn it
we'll
in.
just process it.
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Senator Amanda Sheldon, do you have any questions, ma'am?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Buenas to the panel and to our colleagues. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for being here this morning. Chief, I was wondering if you can elaborate for us on the use of the Safe School Initiative funds. I know there's a lot of collaboration with our nonprofit organizations in the community, and there was a little bit of focus earlier about the transportation funds. But if you can share with us what these Safe School Initiative funds will be used for.
Yes, ma'am. So the Safe Schools Initiative is going to fund a project that was started by the Juvenile Investigation Section, and it's called Project U. And primarily, Project U is a program that we've devised in collaboration, like you said, with many nonprofits. So we have a very good working relationship right now with the Thrive Coalition under WestCare, based out of the village of Derrido, and also with the Manielu organization, the Juvenile Probation Office, the media, and also DYA and the other community stakeholders, including, I believe, Guam Behavioral Health. And so Project U is a curriculum that's going to be based, a school-based curriculum based on citizenship, decision-making, and conflict resolution. And so we have prepared a lot of material that we'll be using for this program at the school level and also with the youth engagement at the community level. And so we have a community education component for Project U, a crime enforcement, and a social media component under Project U. So it's making sure that we engage with the children, this target audience, because we know that they have a very big social media presence. So we realize that we have to provide that presence alongside with them.
Thank you very much, Chief, and to you and the team who have been working throughout the pandemic and trying to meet all of these needs, especially the changing needs of the young people in our community, and trying to meet them where they are now in the ways that we can meet them. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Shelton. Senator Parrish, do you have any questions, ma'am?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to the panel. Thank you for being here. Just a question for OFB. So since the fiscal note was produced, has there been any changes to the amounts in these lapse funds?
Good morning, Senator. We take the FY 2019 financial audit as the official balance when we reference any balances on special funds. So being that the FY 2020 audit is not ready, I would say that the balance as reflected in the fiscal note is still the correct balance as of today, the available balance as of today.
Thank you for that answer. So this next question goes to the chief. So, good morning. In the committee report, you'd mentioned there was a 1.4 million shortfall to GPD, and I just want to maybe get some more clarification. What areas did you have to sacrifice, and how would this support that?
Hi, my name is Anne Marie Cruz. I am the acting ASO for GPD at this time. The 1.4 million shortage for fiscal year 2021 focused on a lot of our contractual items when it comes to leases, utility cost as well, overtime. We didn't put a lot of money into the overtime at the beginning of the fiscal year. And of course, the fact that we need administrative costs to function in the department.
Thank you for that response. So I know in another hearing, there was talk about the need to hire more officers. Would this potentially be used for that?
No, ma'am, because these funds have a specific use under law.
All right, thank you for that response. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Moreland, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First question for the chief, but basically from the last question, just to elaborate there. You gave a clear understanding of what the police patrol vehicle revolving fund is for, and then you're explaining that the Safe Schools initiative. So if I'm understanding with this bill, with this additional monies that you wanted to use, it's specifically for the purpose of the funds that you've explained? Or will there be other uses for this money other than what you explained you wanted to use it for?
No, sir. So the police patrol vehicle revolving fund, the money will be used again to support our vehicle fleet, from purchasing cars to maintenance to oil, fuel, brakes, whatever. And the Safe Schools initiative will go towards our programs under Project U and supporting any youth engagement we have, whether with the schools or with our community partners.
Thank you, Chief. Next question is for OFB, for the director here. Sir, on the section 1 of the bill, on the last sentence, starting at line 8, and shall continue to be available for any purpose until fully expended. How would you define that? Would that allow for GPD to go beyond the extent, or would that basically stick within what this money is to be used for?
Senator, special appropriations are basically created and passed into law for specific purposes to cover a specific program need. I'm going to assume that the intent of the bill is to allow GPD to utilize these funds for the intended purpose for both programs and not to commingle these funds between each program.
How do you feel about the word available for any purpose in the bill? Would that stray away, or is that something for certain that it must be used for that purpose?
Again, Senator, I'm going to leave it to the will of the Chief of Police to ensure that these funds are spent properly. And although the wording in the bill could be construed as utilizing these funds for anything under the sun within GPD's purview, I would like to think that the chief would use his due diligence and comply and make sure that such expenditures being provided in the bill are strictly just for the Safe Street and Vehicle Fleet program.
Thank you, sir. Last question, Mr. Chairman, for BBMR. So again, and I appreciate the Chief of Police to utilize the fundings for that as specified, but things happen. And if things do happen and situations arise, could the words continue to be available for any purpose allow at the time of the situation? Then if this becomes law for any purpose, therefore it can be done. Sir?
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Moylan. Are you asking me whether or not the language is problematic because it may be conceived or perceived to be open?
That's correct. The chief has said, this is what I'm going to do with the money. Situations, as this pandemic has showed us, is we have to adjust sometimes our priorities. With the words continue to be available for any purpose, as you stated, be open enough for that to come if that decision needed to be made.
No, I think I agree with the OFB director that we're talking specifically about a special fund, and so the uses permitted under that special fund are available. So I think we're okay, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Moylan, I'm just trying to follow along with you. I'm looking at the bill on the web, and it's as amended, reading the same bill.
That could be a situation, but I just needed to clarify from the original one as well, just in
Okay.
case as we go further with the bill. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Duenas? No questions. Senator Torres? No questions. Senator Nelson, do you have any questions, ma'am?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For each program. Chief, and when we had the public hearing on the bill on February 22nd, you explained that the Safe Schools Initiative would be used, and as you did earlier for one of my colleagues, would be used with different nonprofit organizations, right? And you mentioned WestCare, the Thrive concept. In the hearing, you mentioned Manielu. Can you give us a breakdown of how much and what is the amount that each NPO is going to receive?
We're not providing any money from Safe Schools Initiative to the NGOs. They asked who are our partners in this project to you. So we're not providing any money to these NGOs, ma'am. These are the NGOs that we work with in our project to you.
So then how are you going to expend $213,000?
Different materials under our COPS program aimed at the Safe Schools Initiative and the project to you. And these are material. It's going to be kind of similar to the program over at the courts, the play by the rules kind of program. So we're developing that kind of curriculum, and it's going to be a GPD-based curriculum aimed again at citizenship, decision-making, and conflict resolution.
Okay. But in the hearing, you said that you already have the materials, or you already have the program laid out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and
then you just need the money to
yeah.
print the program. Is that correct?
And we actually made an attempt last year, but again, all things COVID, we weren't able to procure any of these items, and the budget, the budget lapsed, or the budget period ended.
Okay. And then, there's been discussion about for any purpose, and now the bill is amended to read we'll start from line 5, I guess. We'll start from 4. Police Department from the Police Patrol Vehicle Revolving Fund in the amount of $81,744.51 in fiscal year 2020 and $213,703.24 from the Safe Schools Initiative in fiscal year 2020 shall not lapse and shall continue to be available for the Guam Police Department's operational expenses until fully expended. So it kind of does give you the flexibility to use it for anything other than the Safe School Initiatives and to purchase additional vehicles, right? And so this was the concern here. So would you be okay if we wrote up an amendment specifically to state that it will only be used for the purchase of your additional fleet and for the programs implemented through the Safe School Initiatives, instead of giving you the Guam Department's operational expenses until fully expended?
Yes, ma'am. So we're, again, in line with the Vice Speaker's request, we can submit a budget narrative and a description of all the things, the materials that we're going to use this money for under each appropriation.
Okay, so it's okay if we submit the amendment to be more specific to those two initiatives, is that
Yes,
right?
because we do have a spending plan, especially for the Safe Schools Initiative. Like I said, we made an attempt last year to expend all the money, but again, because of COVID, we ran into obstacles into fully expending the money.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Madam Speaker, do you have any questions, ma'am?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So that line of questioning was similar to some of mine. So we're going to limit the funds, instead of for operational expenses, to put them back to the original purposes, and that's okay with you? All right. And so, and I just want to clarify with BBMR, the fiscal note talks about an unexpended balance of the special fund, and then, the bill's talking about lapses or unexpended appropriations. So you talk about both of those in the fiscal note. So none of these funds were used, none of the appropriations in FY20 were expended. Is that the case?
I believe they had some expenditures, ma'am, but this is the balance of what was appropriated to them.
Okay. So this is the balance of appropriation, not the balance of the unexpended fund. You're saying that's a little bit bigger, but we're not touching that here in this bill. Is that right?
That's correct. If
Okay.
I'm not mistaken, the police patrol appropriation was $300 and something thousand.
Okay. And so in the FY21 budget law, there was a provision that said, that authorized the recruitment and hiring of public safety personnel for the Guam Police Department through the use of lapsed funds from fiscal year 2020. It says all unaudited potential lapsed funds by agency, program, or other by October 30. And was that authorization, so does that authorization not allow the use of these funds for this same purpose?
We wouldn't be comfortable doing that. We're talking primarily general fund and like TAF, if there
Okay.
was, those kind of funds.
All right. And we recently received a transfer report from the governor's office that showed about $3.1 million was transferred out of various agency budgets for FY 2020 and then transferred into other agency budgets. And GPD was one of the agencies impacted by that transfer. It's about, let's say 286,192 of its operations budget was transferred out, and 15,546 from the cost-sharing amount for the Criminal Justice Information System. So I'm trying to figure out why, we are transferring out of the Safe School Initiative and now by another bill trying to put back into the Safe School Initiative. If you can explain that.
Thank you for that question, Madam Speaker. The information that you're reading, it took us a long time to close out the fiscal year. We had AS400 issues. We had a number of issues that prevented us from providing that report to the legislature any sooner. And again, it wasn't through lack of effort. It was just we couldn't get any accurate information out of the AS400 for quite some time until that issue was resolved. We are able to take funds that are lapsed, but the fiscal 21 tracking is actually doing very well. So we closed out 20, and the fiscal tracking for this fund is also trending higher than what it was that was adopted. So we're using fiscal 21 monies essentially for this. It's a fund balance is a fund balance, but the cash received is really the cash that's unexpended in a special account or funds that we expect to receive this fiscal year. So we're comfortable with the transfer out from the fund, and we're also comfortable with the information on the fiscal note that, and then also my request for consideration of the amount up to $281,000. I think we'll cover all the bases.
I guess that's not so clear for me, Mr. Carlson. So are you saying that the $75,602 that was transferred out of the Safe School Initiative was excess of this amount that we are now appropriating? The excess balance?
Let me get a little clarification. I'll be honest with you guys. When I got the request to show up here today, it was on 25, 57, and 40. I wasn't asked to speak on 23, so pardon me if I seem a little, in this regard, with this question unprepared. I'll get
Okay,
back to you.
thanks. So while you're looking at that, if you could just, yeah, also, I would, going to ask, you know, they transferred 286,192 out of the operations for GPD. And, you know, our last budget law said anything lapsing in GPD's operations, put it towards hiring of personnel. And I know, Chief, that you were here recently on an oversight hearing saying, you know, that's what we need, more personnel, more personnel. And so, yeah, that just surprises me that, you know, we're going in out of, taking money out of GPD of all the places, right? That's not, I guess the rationale for that's not very clear for us here. And Chief, can you just clarify then, so we're going to come back to that, Mr. Chair, later?
I believe Mr. Carlson will be able to get the information before we end. We still got one more round to go, ma'am.
So, Mr. Chief, the COPS program that you are discussing to use this Safe Schools Initiative money for is different than, that's a new program, different than the other TIHU program that you described, and also different from the Safe Schools program, which is codified in 17 GCA 3112.2, which it talks a lot about Crime Stoppers, safe schools, making the schools safe, having their own safety officers there.
So this Safe Schools Initiative funding is fairly new to the Guam Police Department. I think this is only the second fiscal year in which the Guam Legislature has provided us funding. And so this is where we developed this new concept of Project U with our juvenile investigation section.
All right, so when the funding was provided, it's not tied to any existing statute or program, you're just making the program up right now?
Right, not that I'm aware of.
All right,
yeah.
so what about this Safe Schools program that talks about partnership with GPD, DOE, and Crime Stoppers?
So
No funding?
I don't believe that has ever been funded, but again, if you look at the concept of Project U, we actually are kind of tied into that statute that you're talking about, because we are more school-based and also community-based.
Okay, so that one is called Safe Schools Program. Okay. Then I have, you know, no objection to you using the money, how you seeing fit for, you know, in-school safety programs. I think that's a good use of it. That's why, yeah, I'm questioning why we're transferring anything out of that fund if you've got a balance left. And I guess you're saying my time's up, Mr. Chair, so I'll wait for the second round. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senator Clint, did you have any questions? None? Senator Peter, did you want to ask the panel? If not, we will move on to the second round. Senator Frank Blas, do you have any questions? You are in your second round.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, just based on the line of questioning from you know, the good lady from Zonia, I think I'm going, based on the line of questioning from the good lady from Zonia, I would be interested to find out those answers before I ask the questions. So I'll yield.
So are you asking that we come back to you after her in case you wanted a follow-up question?
Yes.
Part of your time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Senator Tello, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since BBMR is not able to answer that question with regards to the safety funds and the transfer authority about, I'm pretty sure that the chief might know in a discussion with the administration as to why that money was transferred out from GPD. So I'm asking the chief of police if he was aware of this money being taken out and what reason was given to them.
I'm sorry, Senator Tidigo, I'm not aware.
So you were not aware of any money being taken out of your agency, especially for the Safety Schools Initiative?
I'm not aware, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Chair, may I clarify?
Mr. Carlson, would you like to respond to that question, please? Please feel free.
Thank you, Senator Taitigui. The whole issue and exercise for the governor's transfer authority is to take funds that are available to cover agencies who were not as frugal and mindful of their budget limitations. So you'll see on the report that the speaker referenced the agencies that are in receipt of the funds. So every year we have to go through an exercise of being able to transfer monies into agencies that mission requirements, COVID, any number of reasons resulted in them exceeding their appropriation levels. So every year, the governor's transfer memo was provided to the speaker indicating what it is that the governor did to be able to address shortfalls in other agencies. It's been the practice of BBMR, probably ever since Mr. Guerrero was down there as well, that it's an administrative function and we don't consult people with what it is that we're doing simply because there are agencies that are ripe candidates to have monies transferred out. But we do have to end the fiscal year being able to account for the expenditures of all the agencies in line with the appropriations given by this body. So I do not, for the record, I do not reach out to people and say, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. It's an exercise that we have to do just to be able to, one of the many facets in closing out the books for fiscal 20.
Point of information.
Thank you. Oh, yes, go ahead.
Yes.
Yes.
Just on that point, so I just want, it should be clear on the record that of the 3.1 that was transferred out of various agencies for FY 2020, about 2 million was transferred to MIP payments and retiree medical, dental, life insurance expenses. But 107,764 went to the Office of the Governor, and 11,478 went to the Bureau of Women's Affairs, and 812,000 went to GFD, Guam Fire. Thank you, Mr. Chief.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, yes.
You have a follow-up question, that point of information, and that's over, ma'am?
Absolutely, and I thank the Speaker for bringing that. I too have the same document in front of me and discussing where the areas where this money was transferred to. But it's, it's very unfortunate that you get agencies who are being very cost efficient and frugal, that you penalize them by taking the funding away, which every agency could use every dime that they get. It's not necessarily, I really appreciate your explanation, and I believe there's a balance, Lester, that you made, but I tell you one thing, sometimes these agencies don't get replenished. It's taken out and they lose that money. And it's unfortunate, for them to be cost efficient and frugal, that they're penalized. So I thank you for that, Lester, for that explanation, but I really don't think it's fair. Thank you.
Senator Tadegui, we're here today because the funds expired, the use expired. So when we take funds, it's from agencies who no longer have the ability to access the funds. They don't have the continuing appropriation. So in this case here, we're here because there are funds unexpended that are available. So we took funds that were available and the accounts and the authorization by the legislature had expired. So it's a double-edged sword because we're here today to be able to give the police department use of funds that would otherwise not be available to them.
Thank you, Lester, for that. And the legislature does appropriate to agencies for a purpose. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Senator Adder, do you have a question? You're in your second round.
No questions this round.
Nothing.
Thank you.
Senator Brown, do you have any questions? None. Madam Vice Speaker, do you have questions? None. Senator Amanda Shelton, do you have any questions? None. Senator Parrish, do you have any questions? None. Senator Moylan, do you have none? Senator Duenas?
Only to yield my time to the Madam Speaker if she requires.
You're yielding your time?
Yielding this time to Speaker.
All right.
Jalali.
Senator Torres, do you have any questions?
I just wanted to ask the chief again. On the Safe Schools Initiative, there's nothing in this year's program, because you mentioned at the oversight hearing that there was a program this year and you were going to get it initialized and all that when we had asked about recreation and gangs and things like that. But this money that was unexpended is in no way going to hamper your ability to roll out your program this year, right? Because you've got more than enough funds available?
No, so we had a plan already, a spending plan for this money in FY20, which we weren't able to spend because of COVID. So it was meant to support our Project U and our community and youth engagement with the schools and community partners. Yeah.
No, I don't have any questions. I understand sometimes there's a need for other, covering other operational expenses, and we just have to utilize that. And that essentially is what we're doing here, right? You're utilizing these funds mostly for your operational expenses, isn't that correct?
Yeah, so it's the expenses related to our Project U program. Yeah, that's all.
All right, I'm clear. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Senator Nelson, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, how would you define operational expense as it is written in this bill?
So if you look at the Project U, there's a component called crime enforcement. And so what it is that we actually put a plan together under Project U where besides the community education, the crime enforcement, and the social media presence, the crime enforcement component, as you may well see in the name, is that we're going to target and focus areas of problem areas involving youth. And that we've actually partnered in the past, even during COVID, with Department of Revenue and Taxation, DRT, and their ABC investigators, and we've actually gone out and done some operations and on the alcohol issue. As you may remember, prior to COVID, we had some problems with some of the high schools with alcohol-influenced activities, especially riots and stuff. And so that's part of our crime enforcement focus is getting out there and, conducting undercover operations with maybe businesses that maybe we believe may be selling alcohol, tobacco to minors. And then, the enforcement of curfew. And so, getting kids off the street. And so that's the component of crime enforcement. That's the operational stuff that we're talking about.
And that's all part of this?
It's all a
the
component
initiative?
of Project U. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if we write an amendment specific for the Safe Schools Initiative, you'll be okay with that?
Yes, it'll be focused on the officers working the Safe Schools Initiative.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to yield the rest of my time to the Speaker.
Thank you. So, Speaker,
I don't have that many
your
questions, but
ma'am.
thank you.
You got a lot
Thanks.
of time.
Just, okay, so first, the COPS program, Chief, is not already funded by grants or anything?
No, so ma'am, the police officers.
Okay, so yeah, that's my next question is, if you take the FY21 appropriation to the Safe Schools Initiative, that's $285,000. And if you add this appropriation, which is $213, you're going to get almost $500,000. Is that necessary for the Safe Schools Initiative versus hiring additional personnel? Maybe we can put some in these schools.
So part of the plan is we're actually going to be purchasing vehicles using FY20 and 21 money. So if we get this appropriation, we're actually purchasing patrol vehicles, which is going to be part of that youth each. And so these cars are going to be used for our community, our outreach under Project U. We bring the cars out to the school kids, especially the elementary school kids. I think they really enjoy seeing that patrol car with the lights and the sirens. And unfortunately, because we don't have enough cars, we're not going to pull a patrol car from patrol operations for Project U. So this money will be used strictly to buy cars strictly for the Project U program. So I think it's going to be a real good use of that money.
Is that going to be stationed at the schools and help to deter the drinking issues as you discussed earlier?
No, ma'am. It'll be assigned to the Juvenile Investigation Section and our Community Relations Unit because they're the two sections within the Guam Police Department that are engaged directly with our schools.
All right, so you're standing by us, you still want us to continue to appropriate $500,000 towards that program versus towards hiring of personnel?
We can use that money. Like I said, we do have plans in place to make full utilization of all those funds.
But that's your priority?
Yes, ma'am. Right.
All right. I wanted to follow up with a couple questions about the transfer. I don't know if they're ready, but there was some money transferred out, so it doesn't show, where the GPD money went because they're all lumped together and then transferred into, like I said, those other expenditures, including the governor's office, Women's Bureau. But some went to MIP, and I just wanted to check because in the FY20 budget, it said that any lapses in Medicaid could be used for MIP for FY20, and I just wanted to know, and I know that there were lapses in Medicaid, but was there not enough for the MIP program, Mr. Byrne?
Madam Speaker, no, there wasn't enough from Medicaid.
Okay, all right. Okay, so, Mr. Chair, I guess I will just reserve my time until, I guess, so bottom line is, I'm just concerned that, we're allowing transfers out of GP. Oh, that's my other question, sorry. If we do this appropriation, is this money going to be subject again to transferring out? Because then that would be just like it was before, I guess. Pardon? I can't hear you.
Only if they don't expend it.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, that's my concern, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right. Senator Clint, do you have any questions? Ma'am, your round is done already. Senator Blas, you're the only one with the alibi that asked to reserve your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, you had just brought up something that you had planned to use this money to be able to purchase vehicles for at least two of the programs, and that the cost for these vehicles are going to be roughly about $48,000. What are the specs in these vehicles that it costs so exorbitantly much if this is what
These are police special package vehicles. They're actually, we
marked or unmarked?
Excuse me?
Marked or unmarked?
They'll be marked cars, sir. These are fully marked cars. The vendor's actually been selected under an IDIQ, Cars Plus, so they'll be Dodge Chargers.
Okay, I'm not going to get into, so you're going to use the Dodge Charger for a school safety project?
Yes, because also, sir, there's a crime enforcement portion of the project too, the Safe Schools. So it's a multi-purpose vehicle, then it can be used for community outreach at the schools, but then it also can be used for patrolling neighborhoods.
Also, it's going to have dual purpose?
Yes, sir,
okay,
absolutely.
Yes.
Yes, sir, it's not just $48,000 for a car to be used to show kids lights and sirens. Yeah, it has a dual purpose.
So thank you. I
Yes,
think
sir.
you know where I was going with that. Is there going to be a maintenance package with that?
Yes, so they all come with a preliminary maintenance package. And then the patrol vehicle revolving fund is what we use to do maintenance beyond the initial maintenance package.
Okay. Now, going back to another concern, an initial concern that I had, which is what I wanted to wait to find out, the line of questioning, in that, well, granted, there was no surprise, or you were surprised that money was transferred out without your knowledge. Was any of that money that was transferred, were you relying on that?
So, sir, it's not that I was surprised, it was just that I was not aware. But again, like Mr. Carlson said, the governor has to have a transfer authority.
I understand, and as far as the transfer authority, but what were the projects, or what were the plans that you had for that money had you didn't know that it got taken away from you?
So usually with the lapse funds, we were given authority under the budget in FY21, we can use it for recruitment, which we do have plans already to use other FY20 funds for recruitment. So we do have a recruitment process in place, actually ongoing right now.
Okay. I know this is beyond the latitude and the scope of what we're talking about, Mr. Chair, but if I can ask a question to Mr. Carlson, in his last response to the speaker, in that if this money is not used after you transfer it out, you're going to transfer it back in? Was that what I understood it to be?
Could you repeat the question there, Senator Blas?
This is, I guess, in response. My question is as a result of the response that I thought you said that you provided to the speaker in her line of questioning about, okay, first off, is this money that we're going to be asked to be, for lack of reappropriated, or and as far as taking off laps, was this subject also to then the transfer authority of the governor?
This is the amount that was transferred out, Senator Blas, is a general fund appropriation. So yes, it's subject to her transfer authority.
You kind of knew where I was going to go with the question, so thank you. You did answer my question, because my question was going to be, was this a special or a general fund appropriation?
No, it was appropriated, like the chief mentioned, this is like the first or second year, but it's a special, it goes into a special fund, but the appropriation was from the general fund.
Okay, and if they don't use it, it's going to be, did I hear you say it was going to transfer back in?
Well, it wouldn't get transferred in. It would basically just expire unless a very concerted effort like what's going on right now to be able to take funds that were collected but not spent and put them back into use. So this is a good exercise.
And I appreciate that, but then apparently there may be some gaps in the communication of, if we believe that X amount of money was transferred based on the authority, GPD can't plan for anything because it's gone. But then if they don't use it, you're going to put it back in. Doesn't give them enough time to plan, and this may be cyclical. And as far as lapse funding, wouldn't it be?
The amount that is, we didn't take the entirety of the unexpected funds. We took the $76,000 that the speaker alluded to, and at the time, we provided a fiscal note in January. So we're talking about this again. There's then subsequent to that, we did the governor's transfer. So there was some changes that were made in the fund balance, and so it's fair to say that what was cited in the bill when it was introduced was accurate at the time. There was a movement to remove some of that money under the governor's transfer, and when I mentioned up to earlier, that also takes into account variations that are unforeseen at the time that we're talking about this right now. I'm trying to get some information to answer the speaker's question, but rest assured, there was $30,000 in that account. We took $76,000. There is a balance that is available, but the information at the time the bill was drafted was accurate. And then subsequent to that, we did take money from the balance for the governor's transfer. And again, I apologize again. I was not informed I was going to be speaking about this bill. I would have been better prepared had I known.
Okay, so maybe, Mr. Chair, when it does become more relevant, I guess in the future, for Mr. Carlson to then answer, then I'll ask probably the same question over. But I'll wait for them, okay? Thank you.
All right, thank you. My colleagues, we will now excuse the panel. On the website, Madam Speaker,
Can you
there's
just
no further
clarify
questions.
that last point that Mr. Carlson made? Does that mean we need to reduce the amount of the appropriation by the amount of the transfer?
I'm communicating my staff. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I'm trying to get an answer here. It appears that there was the ability to obligate some of the funds because of ongoing needs and paperwork started by GPD. So there may have been a $24,000 encumbrance on the amount. So let me get you a number as to what it is that's available so that it looks like it's moving downwards, not moving upwards.
Mr. Carlson, that's in reference to 2020, correct? Okay, because this bill is about 2020. We're not talking about 2021.
And Mr. Chair, can you just clarify also, what is the name of the special fund that holds the Safe School Initiative? Because earlier in the discussion, it said it's a special fund, but I'm not tracking a special fund called Safe School Initiative. I'm tracking a school safety partnership in FY 2019, but there was no fund created.
We'll have Steve answer that question.
Yes, Senator,
Mr.
you're
Chair, on a
correct,
point of
Senator. The Safe School Initiative it's a program. But
So there's no special fund created specifically for it. We just funded the program under the executive order of the School Safety Partnership?
that's correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, at this
And
time, I'd like
thank-
to make a motion that we recess until 2 o'clock?
Yes,
So we get
I'll-
more information from
My-
the, from
Hold
on.
BBMR?
Yes, we'll follow up with that question, but my colleagues, please understand, there are no more questions. There was just clarification of
I have a
about
point
the
of
fund.
information, sir.
I beg your
I
pardon?
have a point of information,
point of
Mr. Chair.
information, Madam Vice?
If you can
Yes.
allow me, thank you very much. Just based on the follow-up questions that were being asked, inquired of, and the information that the good director provided for us based on the fiscal note, I just want to make sure that the amendment is in order for the amount, because I was changing that amount because I was securing that there is $38,000 there. So if there's any updates to that, because I have already submitted an amendment, Mr. Chair, can I just get clarification from the good director? Because based on my earlier inquiry
You
and the
just wanted to
proposed
get the
amendment.
amount. You wanted to get the amount, correct?
Yes, I wanted, because
All
I,
right.
because I was utilizing up to instead of stating the amount. But if he's saying that the money's not there, and the,
All he said, Madam Vice, is that the amount is going down,
yes,
but up to 251 would still be safe. Am I correct, Mr.
no.
Carlson? Unless you
He
want
was
to give it a
just saying
different amount.
that just a second ago, that he'd have to double check.
Right. What I said a second ago was that at the time the fiscal note was written, two things occurred. One, there appears to be a $24,000 encumbrance on, and here's another point of clarification. This was contained in a miscellaneous appropriation in the back, not under GPD. So, it is separate and apart. So it's a miscellaneous appropriation. So that's the mother and the father of the baby we're
Okay.
talking about here. It appears there were two things that occurred since the drafting of the fiscal note. One was that there was an ongoing effort to be able to secure $24,000, which was recognized as being allowable, which has a downward effect on the account balance, as well as the $76,000. So I will get you the amount. It's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about $175,000. The good thing is that the chief was able to get the use of the 24. So it's not, it's still a good thing that even if it's $175,000.
Okay, I guess I'll wait. Thank you.
No. So, Mr. Chair, can you please entertain the motion that I made to recess until 2
Yes.
p.m.?
Are there any objection that we recess? There being no objection, my colleagues, mindful, will return at 2, but we're only going to entertain amendments. The panel will not, GPD won't return. The three individuals here will return for the next bill, but not for this bill. All
Mr.
right?
Chair,
And they'll answer the questions.
BBMR still needs to provide a specific, so if I may request that BBMR is still here at 2 o'clock to
Provide the information.
to close that
Okay.
loop. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right? There being none, we'll see you all back at 2 o'clock.